Hi, friends, and welcome to the Dreamer and Doer podcast. I'm your host, Bree Johnson. I designed this space to be a place that we can discuss dreaming big despite the setbacks and fears that come with it. I invite you to come along this journey with me as we embrace our stories and share our journeys. So let's dream big together and get intentional about making it happen. Welcome back to the Dreamer and Doer podcast. I am so excited to be interviewing my friend Leslie today. Leslie and I go way back. I'm not even sure how we met, but somehow we met back in the blog days. And I'm so excited for you to meet her. So welcome, Leslie.
Hi, Brianne. Thanks for having me.
I have loved getting to keep track of your family over the years and all the things you're doing. And we both are kind of on the same journey of like navigating similar things and then how that has led us to where we are now. So why don't you tell my listeners a little bit more about you and your business?
Yeah, my name is Leslie McCracken, and Brianne is right. We've just sort of followed each other's stories. Gosh, for probably 7 or 8 years back in the golden days of blogging.
I know for sure before. Maybe before Kendall and I got married or right after, because that's really when I blogged.
It had to be really close. But we moved overseas at right around the same time. So my husband and I, we moved over to Central Asia when I was pregnant with my first daughter. I have 3 little girls. And then we moved back, and right around that time, Bree, and I think you got pregnant and started your family. And anyway, yeah, so I feel like I don't really know what I'm saying right now. Okay. Like, I don't know how to encapsulate, what all we've done and who exactly I am. So
I know a lot of life can be lived in just 8 years.
Yeah, and to just say really quick, all the different changes that you've gone through, it's just difficult to put to words. But ultimately, I've been married for almost 10 years. Our 10-year anniversary is coming up, and I have 3 little girls, my oldest.
Congratulations.
Thanks. It feels like a big deal. Anniversaries typically are not big deal. In our family, it's just sort of like, yay, love you. But this year feels sort of momentous. I don't know why. But yeah, and then we have our 3 daughters, Piper, who's 5.5, and we have twins, Ruby and Nora, and they are going to be 4 in a couple of weeks.
That is crazy. Yeah, so they're about the same age because Ezra turns 4 in October. And that's about when we moved back from overseas around the same time. When did you move back at your pregnancy, or did you have her over there?
We ended up not having her over there. We came home, and I flew back at 36 weeks pregnant. And then she came on her due date.
Gosh.
I know. And then we expedited all of her important documents, and we flew back to Central Asia when she was 5 weeks old.
Oh, wow.
It was a quick turnaround.
I don't think I realized that she went over there with you guys at some point.
Yeah, she was there. We came back when she was right around 10 months old. So that was where she spent the first almost year of her life, which is really neat. Now she asks about it now, which is really fun to get to tell her just about her little short time there and what it meant.
Right. Ezra will ask to go to the Amazon. Just because we talk about it a lot. I flew back the first day of my 3rd trimester, so I was 28 weeks. And then, of course, we thought we'd go back, and then, hello, surprise baby number 2, which was a good surprise. But then at that point, I was just like, I just don't feel like this is right or the right time. And yeah, there's just a lot of feelings to navigate, and I don't think I did it very well because it's like one thing to be, what do they call it? Reentry. Reentry is really hard. And so it was like, okay, you have just a few weeks to deal with your reentry, and now you have to figure out how to be a mom. And then by the time I was like, all right, I think I got this mom thing down, I was like, oh, just kidding. I'll be a mom to 2 kids. And so it was, for me, it wasn't until Mila was probably several months old that I was like, oh man, there's some things I haven't dealt with. So I don't know if it was the same for you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel like when we came back, we did a little bit of counseling. Like we had like a whole retreat. So maybe it was extensive counseling just to try to equip us to handle re-entry in a really like healthy way. But I don't know, it didn't, we still really struggled. And even just the other day, I was talking with somebody recently about just our time there and our decision to come home early. We were supposed to be there for 3 years with the intention of being there potentially like as a career. And we came home after a year and a half for a variety of reasons. But dealing with like that shame of disappointing so many different people and letting our team down, that was something that I just didn't know how to process. And even just the other day, I was talking to somebody and I started to feel, I didn't cry, but I started to feel like that emotion well up. And I was like, ooh, okay, like that is still, it's not like relevant in my life or in my well-being necessarily, but that the emotions and all of that we went through in that experience, they're just still right there. It's still a part of me. And I'm thankful for that because it made me who I am, but they're still there and they're not all good and healed necessarily, but I think I'm in a good place now. I'm very happy, but it's just interesting to feel that emotion well up when I think it's completely irrelevant, if that makes any sense.
No, it totally does. I get it. And it's just like one of those things that, you deal with it as it comes. Have you looked at your Enneagram number?
I have not done that, and it's interesting that you ask because I did like a little online test and I completely disagreed with what it said, but I've been told,
which is pretty normal.
Yeah, I feel like that's the standard. Everyone's like, oh, I was a 4, but I'm definitely not. But it said I was a 2. It said I'm a helper. I really don't think.
Mine was a 2 also.
Okay. Do you feel confident that you are a 2?
I don't.
Okay.
And then I took another one and it told me I was a 7. And I feel much more confident that I'm a 7.
Everyone's telling me I'm a 7. And just based on my reaction right now, I feel like we're 7s.
I think so. And like one of the things with 7s is they don't like to feel pain or like they don't like to sit in hard feelings. So they just kind of find something else to make life exciting and happy. And I feel like that's definitely me.
Yes, you're getting me right now.
Because I didn't want to. I know. I did not want to deal with those like emotions. And so it was like, all right, let's plan for a kid and do all these things. And then it was just like all of a sudden it all hit me at once. And I was like,
absolutely.
Oh, there's some really hard feelings like that I have not dealt with. And so once I kind of made myself do it, like I have to make myself sit in the hard feelings to like really process it. And it's really uncomfortable for me and I don't like it. And I just want to retreat. But I mean, it's helped.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you say that because I just found, so we came back from Central Asia and then decided 2 months later, like we should have another baby. And then it turned out to be twins. And so,
oh my gosh,
the timing was not perfect, but I was reading the other day my journals from that time. So on the topic of sitting in pain, reading some of my journals, just going through the decision to come home, finding out we're having twins, and just having 2 babies at one time when we weren't in a super emotionally healthy place was a huge challenge. And so it was interesting to read my journal and almost just like take a mindful moment to just sort of extend grace to myself, especially knowing our story now and how far we've come and how extremely happy we are and how strong our marriage is and how beautiful our family is. I took a moment to mentally just almost talk to myself and this girl who wrote this just these really difficult journal entries, and to just say like, this was a part of what is going to make you so happy. Like this is a step of your journey. And so just like allowing myself to sit in that pain a little bit was really meaningful, but I totally avoid it too. And I saw that journal and was like, oh, I don't want to read that, but I forced myself to. And I'm so glad that I did, to just sort of honor that experience for how far we've come.
And for me, like with dreaming now, it's like I have to look back on those things and say like, those were meant to get me here, or like I wouldn't have made certain decisions if that hadn't have been the dream. And so just knowing now, like, okay, even with my business and the podcast and these things I have, knowing that it can easily change and transform, and maybe it'll bring me to somewhere else and that sort of thing. So just knowing like it wasn't a failure.
Yes.
And it was just a stepping stone to get me to where I am now. So why don't you tell us about your business? Because that definitely ties into what you're doing now.
Yeah. So moving overseas just sparked this huge passion for travel. And about a year ago, I was looking to make a career change. I'm mostly a stay-at-home mom. But then I was doing massage therapy at a chiropractor's office in town. I was just ready to be done with that and just looking to try to figure out what was the next step. And somebody suggested to me, somebody close to me, she said, you should be a travel agent, because I was always looking up flights and helping people make decisions and sending them flight deals I was finding and encouraging them to go on trips. And so when she said that, I just paused and thought, that's a great idea, but there's no such thing as travel agents anymore. Like, that's a thing of the past. Right. But it was just enough of a seed planted where I started looking into it, and I realized, like, oh, this is a thing. There's almost, it's a growing industry, because now people are spending money to travel again, and the world is getting smaller, and they want to go places. But where I have always felt so comfortable planning trips, and I love the research, and I love getting lost, and I love just finding new cultures and embracing it. That was really overwhelming for a lot of people. And so that was something that I just would have never guessed.
Sounds like me. Yeah. I have to pause you for just a second, because I'm like, yes, I get it. Like, I got to go to Costa Rica by myself in January, and it might have been the best thing that's happened to me besides my children.
Well, yes.
In a really long time. And I just let myself, like, I went to the bus stop and I bought bus tickets and rode out to the beach, like, by myself.
Oh, my word.
And it was a dream. I think it really fueled me up and fired me up for the rest of the year.
It's so true.
But yeah, gosh, traveling, which is why I wanted to interview you, because eventually we want to travel more as a family, and so I want to pick your brain about different things too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to talk about it. It's my passion. It's like I've always wondered if I'd ever be able to find something that I would get lost in, and like travel and talking about it and dreaming with other people about it is something that I just easily get lost in. So after doing a ton of research about whether or not travel agents still existed, if it was worth my time, if it was silly, I just had so much self-doubt, and I felt so vulnerable just wanting to try something new. I decided to go for it. So I decided to become just a home-based travel agent. I found a host agency that I'm an independent contractor through. So I have my own LLC, and I'm essentially working for myself. I just decided to go for it. So I started my little company, my little LLC. It's called Exquisite Travel Designs. And I specialize in family travel and in anniversary travel. It's something that I've been booking a lot this year, people celebrating their anniversaries. And it's been so fun.
Kendall.
That's really the point of our conversation today.
Yeah.
No, and so that's been such a joy. So the interesting thing is that it took so much time and effort to launch my website and my brand and to really get to the heart of what I wanted to do. And then once I start taking on clients, of course, it takes time for them to actually go on their trips. And so the last few months are my clients have finally been taking these trips that I've like painstakingly coordinated and put like so much thought into. Like, I had a family go to Ireland. I was literally writing down the time of the sunset on June 10 on the west coast of Southern Ireland, because I didn't want them to miss it, and watching them just buzz around the island, it brought me so much joy. And I was just so thrilled for them, and to be able to play a part in what is just an unforgettable family memory. They're investing in each other, and that I was able to craft that experience for them and just equip them and empower them and make them feel confident. It just brought me so much joy, and it just felt like, yes, this was the right choice. And so a year ago, I was sitting there thinking, oh my word, they don't exist. Nobody uses them. And now this year, I'm just taking on clients and getting to know them and their desires and their dreams and what their goals really are for their travels. I mean, not everyone has the same intention with a vacation. And sometimes couples who are traveling together don't even have the same intention. They're like, oh, I want to just lay on the beach and read. And she's like, I want to go hiking, So even just to equip people like how to navigate those things too, it has just brought me so much joy. And it's just really been a really great direction for me.
What's been your favorite trip to plan?
Oh my goodness. So I would say probably the family that went to Ireland, but also I was able to help a couple celebrate their 40th wedding anniversary with this custom trip to Italy, and just really got to know what they wanted. They did not want to go to Rome or Florence. They wanted to go to just some small towns and have authentic experiences. And then they wanted to see their family heritage in kind of an off the beaten part of Italy that even the suppliers I worked with, they were like, nobody really goes here, but we made it happen for them. And so they had just an incredible time. And that was probably one of the most meaningful trips, and sending them flowers on their anniversary and just really trying to meet them where they're at and make it super special was really awesome.
So I know that being a mom and a business owner can be extremely challenging. So I do want to ask you how you balance those two things, but I also want to ask you what keeps you motivated when you just feel like really discouraged and like you're not enough.
I think what keeps me motivated is knowing that I am enough. When I start feeling those lies of like, oh, I'm failing, I might let them down. What does this email say? I have like a major email fear.
Oh my gosh, me too.
When I see somebody sends me something, I don't know why I'm like, oh, they're mad. And it's usually just like, great, this looks awesome, thanks, bye. And I'm like, oh.
Same. Oh my God. I have had so much email anxiety. I'm like, calm down, Brienne. Like, they're probably not mad. Just deal with it. And they're not.
No.
I just feel like they're mad.
I don't think
I have to make you happy.
I don't think I've ever had an angry email, but you would think that I had I've had traumatic news delivered to me in the form of an email. Just based on my anxiety. I'm so glad to hear you say that, because my husband's like, I don't get it, because I'm like open, like I'm like motivating myself to open it. So, anyway, just the whole idea that I am enough, and just feeling like I can push through that, and feeling those insecurities that I did not even know existed. A year ago, I felt like, oh, I'm confident. I feel really self-assured, and this has caused me to just feel vulnerable, and that is a good place to be, but it's also just really caused me to have to grow. So I feel sometimes like just proving to myself, like, no, I am enough. I can do this. I am the best person for the job. Nobody cares about this more than me. And just having to kind of go through some self-talk, that's what really keeps me motivated.
I like it. And I wanted to ask you where you came up with the name of your business.
Oh, goodness.
Because I know you have a story. You always had a story with every blog name you had.
Oh, yeah. You know what? This was purely a business decision where I just felt like I didn't want to pigeonhole myself, and I didn't want something really cheesy like, I don't know, easy travel. I mean, that's maybe, I don't even know. Maybe somebody has it. I wanted to have a really professional.
I like exquisite.
Thank you. I just wanted people to know that they weren't just dealing with just somebody who doesn't care. I wanted it to be really high class. I wanted it to be indicative of just precision, and that they would, I wanted to make people feel like they were going to be in good hands. And I also wanted to be able to have something that was generic enough that as I grow and change through like the travel industry, I can sort of switch directions. Like right now I'm focusing on family travel and anniversary travel, but maybe in the future I'll want to help mission groups, or I'm going to want to help, I don't know, historical tours for people who love Outlander to go to Scotland, so I just wanted to have, I wanted to have just the ability to have a name that was, sort of generic.
Okay. So I want to know something that's been like a current struggle you're dealing with, and how you've kind of worked through it, and maybe encourage someone else out there, whether that is personally or in your business. But, struggle's real every day.
I would say a current struggle that I'm really focusing on trying to solve is balancing family and business and just everything, all of our relationships and friendships and family, and trying to do that in a healthy way. I never wanted to take on something that would take away from my family, and I've always been really protective of my schedule. Like, is this going to add to our family and my girls' health and my emotional health, or is this going to take away? So I try to be really protective of our time, but at the same time, I really love what I do, and I want to do it. Like, I struggle sometimes feeling like this desire to be with my girls all the time, just making memories 100% of the time. But then I also, I want to be me, and I want to be my own person, follow my own passions as well, and that both of those things can't necessarily exist 100% of the time, but trying to find a way for them to coexist in a healthy way. So
yeah, but I feel like I totally understand the balance and where you're coming from and all that, but you've really picked a good job to go into to include them, because they've gotten to go to so many amazing places with you guys because of what you're doing, and not many kids their age are going to be able to say that when they're older.
Yeah, and that is such a good point. It's good to hear you say that too, and I have to remind myself of that part of the reason I'm doing this is because we do love travel and it is so important to us, and I wanted to have opportunities to show the girls the world as well, and so I've been really thankful that we've been able to do that. So I do remind myself, like, this is for them too. I want this to be a part of our family's DNA, and so far it has been, and it has fit in that way, but it's looked like getting up really early in the morning to answer emails and get some itinerary details hashed out. It's looked like we go to a local gym where you can drop your kids off like in the kids area and go work out. Yeah. Or they have like this parent area where you could just sit. And I clarified with them. I didn't want to, be like abusing the privilege. I said, so can I just go sit at that table out there and do some work? And they're like, oh, we don't care what you do. Just don't leave the building. So that has been, that's been hugely beneficial too, to just be able to go somewhere where I can just have 2 hours of uninterrupted time to focus.
I did that too. And I feel like it's a really good thing to do, especially in the beginning of starting your business when you're still trying to figure it all out and balance everything. And I would do the same, or even just like working out, but then taking a shower, because I could take a shower so much quicker and go home and work.
It's so true. It really is. It's the exact same for me. It's been a huge blessing. Even just in being able to work out and have space for that if I need to. But as I've started my business, it's been essential.
Yeah, and I feel like I get so many ideas when I work out that I'm like, literally this morning I was working out and had a whiteboard next to me because I was listening to a podcast at the same time. And so I was like taking notes in between my reps, and now I'm like looking at them on the fridge. That is so great.
So you were working out at home, that I'm guessing, or did you have the whiteboard?
Yes, I work out at home now. Yeah. The like closest gym with childcare, which I work at one. So we have like the free gym membership, but it's 15 minutes across town. And I'm like, okay, that's 30 minutes in the car. And I just don't have 30 minutes plus unloading everyone out of their car seat. So right now I'm in the season of like working out at home just works better with our schedule. So thus far in your business, what would you say has been one of your biggest accomplishments?
Oh my goodness. That is such a good question.
I feel like just planning the first trip and seeing it work would be such a good one.
That is true. I would say that was a huge experience for me, of a lot of anxiety and like following their flights as they crossed the Atlantic. I know, I was like a mom, like they were my babies, like, oh no, I've launched them and now I need to make sure that they make it okay.
Do they like send you pictures and all that?
They do.
Or you just kind of feel like a creeper?
I touch base one time, like, hi, just checking in, wanted to make sure you made it. I won't bother you. If you need anything, reach out. Because they don't want me stalking their whole trip, right? But here I am. I'm like trying to find their Instagram. I just want to make sure that everything's fine. I want to see, but where I feel this strong connection to them, they're just like, oh, this is my travel agent. She booked my trip. Here I'm so invested and I want to see it all. So yeah, that was a huge moment for me, that first trip.
All right, we're going to move into some fun questions, because I love talking to people about their travels and the things they've seen. And so I want to talk to you because, I feel like people are always like, oh, it's my dream to travel, but we have kids and they're young and we just can't make this work. So what would you say to a family who really, really wants to travel but feel like they can't?
I would say to that family that they should just go and just do it, because you can wait forever for all conditions to be perfect, right? And there's always going to be a reason not to go. There's always going to be something else you can pour your money into. But investing in a family memory is so worthwhile. Like, we've taken our girls twice to Europe in the last year. And when we went last year with the girls, Piper was just 5 and Ruby and Nora were a little over 3. And the whole time we were there, the thought would come into my mind like, oh, they're probably not even going to remember this, really. Like, when do your first memories start? They might remember a couple of things. And I think that can really hold a lot of people back. They're like, oh, my kids aren't even going to remember. I'm going to pay for airfare to the Caribbean. I'm going to pay for airfare to Europe, and they're not even going to remember it. What a waste. And it's not a waste. It truly isn't, because even if they don't remember everything, I remember everything, and travel is a part of who I am, and it brings me so much joy. And to get to share that with my girls was such a privilege, and for them to get to see me doing something that I love, and getting to just share those experiences and try new foods. And one of my favorite moments when we were in Sevilla, Spain, I was carrying Piper down just a really narrow old alley, and I just was whispering in her ear, like, this is how this makes me feel. I think of all the people who walked on these roads and what their stories were and what they meant to the world and what they did, and just getting to share that perspective with her. Is she going to remember that conversation? Probably not, but I do think that all those shared memories accumulate into who she's going to be. And I hope someday she will be walking down that alley and she'll be thinking the same thoughts, because I think it's important to see things and share things. So I think fear can so often hold people back. And especially traveling with kids, things can just go, not great. Like, it can just be really bad for a couple seconds. 20 minutes. Yeah. It's the same as here. It's not always going to be perfect. There's going to be whining. There's going to be tough moments. It's like, why not at least have those tough moments somewhere beautiful or somewhere that inspires you? I don't know. I just am a kind of a yes person, I think. I'm really motivated by shared memories. Same. I'm really motivated by
I think you're definitely a 7.
I'm really motivated by that. And so to me it seems worth it. If you're going to have to pass the time, why not pass it somewhere amazing?
Right. Or, you're going to be able to tell them those stories. And even still in my adult life, I love hearing stories that my mom tells me of things that happened when we were younger, or when her and my dad pre-kids, So either way, it's worth it. I totally
agree. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good.
The other thing we've done when we've traveled is we've invested in professional photography.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that.
So when we first went to Europe, we found the company Flytographer, where you can hire in most major cities around the world. You can hire a professional photographer. So we did that. So the girls will have that as well. So they're going to have these professional pictures that I think they will have memories. They actually see some of the pictures up on our wall. So it's really important to me to actually print pictures from our travels. And they'll say, when can we go back to Portugal? Oh my word, my 4-year-old's like, I'd like to go to Portugal again, please, Mom. And that it's just so strange to hear come out of their mouths, but those memories do mean something to them too.
Yeah, and they blow me away with how much they remember. My son, he can just pull things out of nowhere. Absolutely. And I'm like, how did you remember that?
It's amazing.
I think we've got to give them more credit than we do.
That is true. And if you look back on the things that you do remember from your childhood, it is those big things.
Big things.
Yeah. So this time when we went over to Europe, I couldn't find a Flytographer where we were going to go. So I just searched on Instagram the hashtag. We were in Annecy, France. So I searched Annecy photographer and I found one. And she was so happy to meet with us. And she was completely amazing. And she gave us these gorgeous pictures that we have now. So people are excited.
Hashtags, they work.
I know, they really do. And she was so surprised I found her that way. I'm like, oh,
that's what I Google. I have met people from Waco, Texas hashtag, or someone found me last week because I tagged one of our posts with Waco, Texas, and just talking about our journey with moving here. And they just moved here a week ago. And she was like, hey, this is so me right now. And so we're meeting for coffee on Thursday.
That is so nice. Do you have a lot of meetings that do you meet a lot of friends? Is that a priority for you?
Especially, yes, I just love meeting new people. And that was one of the things we learned about ourselves after living overseas, is that we kind of have a gift of connecting people. And we realized when we lived in the Amazon that no one really knew each other. They kind of did, but then there was still a lot of people who didn't know about the other. For instance, the girl that runs Grace House on the state side of things that we work with, I found her blog over Christmas when we were visiting the States. And I reached out to her and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I saw you walking down the street. And there's just certain things I remembered about her that I was like, this has to be her, you know? And so, yeah, when we went back, we got on a boat and went to their city. And it was like we had known each other our whole lives. But then all these things happened after we left where it was like everyone started working together or like started relying on each other for needs that they didn't do that before. Like we started a 4th of July party when we were there. And yeah, we did a 4th of July party with a bunch of the Americans there. And then the second year, like people came out of the woodworks and there was like 25 people from the States that were all living there and meeting each other for the first time. And then just to see them all connect when we left, it was kind of like, okay, that was worth it. So yeah, even here, I like making connections and I just think it's really cool. Like, especially with the internet world these days, like the world is so small. I could probably write a book about it with all the crazy connections I've had. Like even we have a mutual friend because of blogging.
Do. That's crazy.
So it's just crazy. Is it a priority for you to meet people?
I would say in this season of life, as I was listening to you, I was sort of, so we're living in the town that I grew up in and where we lived.
Which is always hard.
Where we lived before we moved overseas. And so we have friendships here that have spanned a decade of just people who are in it with us. Just they've been there through thick and thin, who we have fun with, who we just encourage each other. So we have just some of the most genuine, incredible friendships. And so what has happened out of that amazing gift is that I am not very good at meeting new people anymore.
It's like dating.
Yeah, like
I was like, this is so weird. Like, what did I say?
I know. So I really have to force myself to actually reach out to new people because I feel so stretched just in my life.
I would say that's like when we lived in our hometown, I didn't feel the pressure or the need to make friends or meet people because I was pretty confident in the friendships I had, and I still have great friendships and connections with them. But then moving here just forced us to do that. And I think what I like about living here is like nobody knows me, like nobody knows anything that's happened. And I lived in a really small town. And so I was talking to a friend about that, and it's like, you always have to guess, like, what do they know about me? Have they heard about me? Oh, yeah. You know? And so just like that being in the back of your head. But here it's like, no, everyone, and so many new people have moved to Waco too that we're all kind of in the same boat. So it's made it really easy to connect with people because they're like, hey, where do we even take our kids? But because I've been here a whole 3 months longer than they have, I have advice for them.
One.
I know. It's crazy. I was like, well, we weren't the newbies very long.
That's really funny. I will say, though, when I do get around new people, this past year I finished my associate's degree and a couple of my classes were at our local college, and I would come home and tell my husband, like, I love being around new people. There are people who are just different and I just find them fascinating, and I feel like we're all friends, but I know that we're not, and that I'm like 10 years older than all of them. But so there is a part of me that like hungers for new relationships, just getting to know new people. It's just, I think this season of life and feeling like our cup is already so full.
There's only so much you can do. And we still have, like, I think it's wise to keep like your inner circle because you can only really maintain so many relationships at a time. But I'm definitely extroverted. I love meeting new people, and so I have to find that balance and kind of figure out, not that it's in a mean way, it's just like literally there's only so much time I can give. And so there's even some friends I have that since I've been here, and I'm like, hey, what if we meet like once a quarter? Like that's doable. Like maybe it won't be every week,
and
but
I think that's okay.
Just finding those people you connect with.
Absolutely. I think it's okay to put formality on it. Sometimes that feels like unattractive, where it's nice to have sort of spur of the moment hangouts, but I think that's okay to like say, you hang out quarterly. You know, I have a question for you. I read an article the other day about people who've lived overseas and how they not struggle with relationships, but one of the struggles is that when you live overseas and you have an expat community, you sort of have to just dive deep quickly. And so you don't do small talk. Like, you are fast friends and you really just dive in deep, where here it is like dating, where you have to take that time, and you sort of like, my husband and I always say, it's like you have a deck of cards and you're holding it close to your chest, and you slowly turn one around like, this is this card. Do you still like me? And then they turn around their card and they're like, this is mine. Do you still like me? And so it's this slow, like, building of trust, where when you live overseas, you just don't really have anybody else. And you have to be fast friends. And you do have a shared experience. You're both over there for a reason, right? So do you feel like that your, like, desire to meet new people stems at all from your time overseas? Or do you feel like that's just a part of who you are?
Probably a little of both, and I feel like it's increased more now that we've moved here, too, because I was like, I really want to meet people and be a part of a community really quickly. Like, that was kind of a non-negotiable. Like, I didn't want to be here a year and then be like, we still haven't met people. So it kind of forced me, and it's kind of funny because my husband was like, I want to do this and this and this, and then I'll feel better, like, meeting up with people. And so I kind of had to find this balance to where he wasn't super overwhelmed with, like, meeting people, I guess, because he's not like that. I was going to say,
is he an introvert?
But,
did you marry an introvert too?
Yeah. Yeah. But he'll be extroverted when he wants to be. Okay, and can we talk about your Sia video that y'all made? Because that would be my husband. Like, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, him," and then he would do something like that, and you're like, "What just happened?"
Funny. So a few years ago, this dress company called Sonnet James had a contest where you had to enter a lip syncing video. And then you would win, like, their entire fall line of dresses. And so I thought, well, I love this company. I love their dresses. It would be so awesome to win. What could I possibly do that would stand out from the crowd? And one day at work, I had this idea. And I came home to Josh and I was like, so I have this idea. I think it's really good, but it's going to be kind of maybe weird for you. But so we decided to do the Sia video to Chandelier, where she has, like, her yellow wig on. She's just singing. And then that dancer, is it Maddie? What's her name? I don't remember her name.
Yes. Maddie's.
Yeah,
Maddie
she's
something.
amazing. But
she,
very contemporary, is dancing in a leotard around the entire background, or the whole video is her, basically. So on our 7th anniversary, we filmed this video of me sitting there with, like, a yellow wig on, like, pretending to be Sia, and then Josh comes out and he's in a white tank top and black leggings, and he just crushes it. He just kills it. And
it was literally the best thing ever. Like, you're going to have to send me that so I can post it.
I will. I absolutely will, because it still, actually, somebody just texted me the other day. They were going through a hard time and they were like, can you send me that video, please? So that was really funny. And we ended up winning the contest because of our video. So it was so exciting. And I was so thankful that he was willing to do that. It wasn't even hard for him, honestly, where some people were like, oh, I could never do that, or my husband would never do that. He was just down for it. He just was willing to do it, and he had fun with it, and it was so fun.
My husband's like, I mean, I could get him to do silly, goofy things, and he'd be on board, but they're kind of, like, far and few between. Like, they're not all the time. But when he does it, it's like, go big or go home.
Yeah, absolutely. He's committed.
I love it. Yes. So back to traveling for you. I want to know what has been your favorite place to visit, which I know is probably the hardest question you could answer, or maybe not. Maybe you have a clear front.
I don't. No, I will say probably it's a tie. For just my husband and I, my favorite place that we've visited is Greece. We were able to take 2 trips over to Greece while we lived overseas, because once you're cross the Atlantic, airfare is actually really inexpensive to get around. So we were able to go to Greece twice, and it was so just healing for our spirits. And I always tell people when it comes up that Greece is exactly what you think it is. Like every dream you have about it of like, oh, I've always wanted to go to Greece. It meets all of those expectations. The people are so warm. The scenery is so beautiful. The water is so blue. It sort of like destroys you for all other water where you're like, why isn't this as blue as Greece? You know, and you can't live your life like that. Right. But Greece was so special. But in terms of family trips, the trip we just took with our girls to the Alps in France was so special. That was my absolute favorite family vacation that we've taken. It was so good that I normally when we come back from a trip, I feel like satisfied, like, oh, that was so good. I'm so thankful. Now I don't need to go anywhere for a while. I have felt almost daily like, let's just sell everything and go back. I don't know. It was such a special time for our family. So family trip, Annecy, France, but just Josh and I, definitely Greece.
So what's like your next place that you want to visit?
So we are trying to plan our 10-year anniversary trip, and it's in October. So we're just kind of, we plan our trip sort of last minute whenever like really good airfare presents itself. Mm-hmm. So we are deciding between Hawaii for a few days or a river cruise in Europe. So it's just a matter of figuring out all of the logistics. They're two totally different trips too, but those are just kind of both on our sort of our next wish list for travel.
And what about for family?
For family, I would actually love to go back to the area that we were just in. Actually, I really want to go back this time into Switzerland and do some more hiking and just see some more of that part of the world that really, I just loved it so much that I would like to go back there.
You probably just scratched the surface.
I know, that's just it too. The trouble with falling in love with travel is that it's sort of unending. It's like a thirst that can't necessarily be satisfied because you just want to keep seeing more. When you see more, you love it, and then you want to see more. So yeah, I'd love to go back to Europe again, into the mountains and explore a little bit more of Switzerland and maybe go down into Italy. So that's kind of what we're thinking for next summer if everything works out. My husband's a realtor though, and I don't know what it's like in Texas, but the housing market is crazy during summer. And then in the winter, it completely...
Well, you're talking to someone who lives in Waco right now.
I didn't even think...
So it is insane. Like, houses aren't even staying on the market a day.
It's the same thing here where we are, and it has led to like 12-hour days. So summer is... Yeah. And then in the winter, it's very, very slow. Very few people are putting their house up. So it's difficult because some of the best places to go are in the summertime, but that's when, he's working. So just trying to balance and navigate that.
Would you ever start a family travel vlog?
I would honestly love to. I would love to because I'm really inspired by families who do that. But at the same time, I love our home and I love the roots of that we can give our girls here and just the familiarity and even just being gone a week. When we come home, it's so nice to have dinner at our own table and to see our friends who know us and who it's just easy to be around. Yeah. So I feel sort of like romantic about it. Like, oh, we could just travel around and I'd write and we'd book travel. But at the same time, I love the roots that we have here. So I don't know that I would find it as fulfilling as I think I would, if that makes sense. Oh,
yeah, I agree. You can always video a little bit of your travels. Yes.
I know. I've thought about that. I'm like,
even if it's just for you don't have to share it. But
I know. And some of the things
we've started doing
I saw your. I know.
Day-to-day
How's
life.
that been going?
It's been fun. And Kendall really does a great job at like editing them. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know you could do this, but it's awesome, and really like I've been seeing things from like Kendall's perspective. So like there's things that happen on little trips or adventures we've taken that like maybe I wasn't around them. And so I see them and I'm like, oh, I didn't hear Ezra say that. And so now I like have it forever. I guess we've kind of lost like the art of home videoing. My parents have tons and now we just keep them on our little phones and then they die and then you lose them all.
That's so true. That is so true. I wish we would have taken more video on our last trip just for us. I think with traveling, there's a tension in what to share and what not to share. I really shy away from which I feel like people think, oh, you posted a lot of pictures. I post maybe one a day tops. And then there's some that I keep completely private. Like this doesn't go anywhere. This was just ours. Like, so I think there's just something to be said about even having boundaries while you're there. Like, what is the point of your travel? Are you just doing it to take videos and show everybody your travel, or are you really present to the moment? So finding that balance has been hard for me now that travel is my job. Like I do have to post it.
Yeah.
So just embracing that has been a little bit of a challenge. When we went to Ireland 2 years ago, I didn't post anything for a couple of months that we had even gone. And it just felt so wonderful to have this amazing experience. And it was just ours. Nobody else really knew what we did except for our friends and family who asked. And I still haven't really posted a ton about it. I don't know. So I think there's something magical about keeping things to yourself, but also there's so much value in recording. So just trying to find that balance is difficult.
Yeah, I agree. The boundaries.
Boundaries.
The balance. Do we ever figure it out?
Yeah, I know. I have a book on my bookshelf called Boundaries right now. I've been meaning to read it.
I've heard of that. I feel like we didn't talk a ton about business, but that's because I'm just like super captivated by traveling and I miss it. We have not, I mean, we have gotten to take some trips, but when you're kind of used to doing it all the time, it doesn't feel like enough.
It's never enough.
I know. So I'm like, oh yes. Now I'm like dreaming of all the trips I want to take. We want to do like Costa Rica.
I have heard people just fall in love with Costa Rica.
Amazing.
I just keep hearing about it.
It really is. There's just so much to do. I only got to be there for 4 days in January, but it's super family friendly. And so I really would like to, we want to go back and take the kids, and Kendall didn't get to go either. So, we want to do that. We want to take the kids to the Amazon. Kendall's dream trip is Norway.
Really?
So we'd love to do Europe. So I'm just like dreaming of all the things now.
Yes.
One day, which I mean, with our business and stuff, we really want to travel more to work with like artisans personally. Which I did find some artisans in Costa Rica, but it would just be a matter of like going more often to work with them and get products and samples and all that stuff. So that was kind of a huge vision behind us starting this boutique, is so that we could travel more and then go to places that we want to visit. I meant to ask you if you've been to Morocco.
I have not been to Morocco. Nope.
You need to put that on your list.
Have you been to Morocco?
Because when you were saying how I have, and you were like, Greece is exactly what you thought it would be. And that's what I thought about Morocco. It was like walking into Aladdin. It was just amazing.
Really? Okay.
Yes. The markets. I mean, I could have stayed in the markets all day. Like I could have just stayed there because everything's just incredible and so vibrant and colorful.
I know.
Like, what is something you wish you would have known moving back? Like, was there anything that could have, obviously we always learn, but I could have known, what advice would you have given your younger self, but specifically in the transition of going from a time where you thought you'd live overseas your whole life to that dream changing?
I think I would tell myself probably to slow down, if that makes any sense, and to trust the process, and trust that we made the decision that we made for a reason. And I feel like we came back and we tried so hard to just sort of step into who we were when we left. But we had been through so much change. And everyone around us was so happy to have us back. And so I think they thought like, oh good, Josh and Leslie are back. And we weren't. We were totally different people on the inside, trying to still live out this outward life that we used to live. So I would tell myself to slow down and reflect more and not try to pick up where I left off.
I like that. That's a really, really good piece of advice. Because I know I have other friends that have made that transition too that might be listening. And but really that can be taken to any sort of journey and transition, is like it changes you and that you're not the person you were before you walked through it, you know?
And that's okay. You're going to grow and change, and to just take some time to reflect on that. And I don't know, and just trust yourself. It's so easy to look back on decisions that you make with doubt or wondering, even as far back, years ago. But just to say, okay, I did the best I could with the information that I had, and just, I don't know, practicing acceptance as well, I think is huge.
What would you tell to someone to encourage them as they're starting out, maybe in the beginning of their dream, or they're not really
I would
there
tell them
yet?
to not panic. I feel like there have been times in the beginning where if something maybe wasn't perfect, my knee-jerk reaction was like, panic, this is bad, you're a failure. And it'd be something minor. So I would just say deep breath again, slow down, and don't panic, handle it. So that is advice I wish somebody would have given me when I was just starting out.
So I want to talk about some fun things. What are 3 of your favorite things right now?
3 of my favorite things right now. I would say espresso, coffee. It's getting kind of late at night, and I start looking forward to my coffee every night. So, coffee. Mm-hmm. I think I have a hard time being honest. I'm actually really loving The Handmaid's Tale, but I feel like I can't talk about it because people are like,
same. I love when I find out people watch it, and I'm like,
also.
Oh my gosh.
So we just finished season 1, and I feel like, I don't know, it's so intense, and I'm usually really protective of not watching like really dark things or not reading dark things. Like, I've put up some pretty good boundaries. Same. This show is so fascinating, and I'm obsessed with it. I love the idea that something like that could happen, freedom's being taken away.
Well, everything she wrote about are things that have happened because it's based off the book. And so everything that happens in it are things that have happened in the history of humans. So that's what is the other mind-blowing thing.
I did not even know that. But I feel like I have to be like a closet Handmaid's Tale because it's pretty risque, and a lot of people, I don't know, there's just sort of like a taboo around that, but I find the ideas fascinating. Even just the topic of immigration. I really like politics. I like talking about those things, and I don't know. So even thinking about Americans being immigrants and like having to seek refuge, I'm like, this is so timely. This is such a good thing for people to even just be thinking about.
I'm pretty sure we're the same.
I know.
Person. After this conversation, I'm like,
no wonder.
Oh my gosh, we're the same.
Yeah.
It all makes sense.
I'm watching it. I'm like, everyone should watch this show. It's hard to see, but it's important to see. I don't know.
Yeah. Is it crazy? Like, we haven't gotten the kids birth certificates, and I was like, Kendall, we're getting the kids passports right now because I want to be ready to flee if something ever happens. But maybe that's because we lived overseas, so we're like, these things, we're just more aware of them happening. It's not some foreign concept.
Yeah, where we lived, we taught English to Afghani refugees. And it's just like, that just shatters your walls and your constructs. Like, these are people, they're so beautiful, and they made jewelry just to sell, and it was so gorgeous. I bought pieces, and you just can't help but think like there's nothing different between you and me except that I was born where I was born. And I had the golden ticket, I had an American passport, and they did not, and they're just trying to make it by. And so there's something that just connects you when you are looking in someone's face. They're not just like a name or an idea or a news story. They're like a human being. So
that's what I told Kendall. I was like, it's just pure, not luck, obviously, but I could have been born anywhere, but I was born here. Like, we don't have control over that. So we're going to play this or that. So I know the answer to this one. Coffee or tea?
100%.
Hot or iced?
Always hot.
Tacos or burrito? Pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Beach or mountains?
Oh, beach.
Same.
I know. Depends on the mountains, I guess, but probably beach.
And if you can get beach and mountains, that's
precisely.
Even better.
Take me to, that's why maybe Hawaii, beach and mountains.
Yeah, or Costa Rica.
I know. Now you've convinced me I need to go to Costa Rica.
I know. Salty or sweet?
Sweet, unfortunately, all the time.
Same. Audiobooks or reading an actual book?
I downloaded my first audiobook a couple weeks ago, and I did not make it through it. I just get too interrupted. I can't focus on it.
I know, same. So podcast or blogs?
Actually, podcast, though. I can pause the podcast. A book I feel like I have to really get into, but podcast.
I know. I love blogs, and there's some that I don't read any on a regular
basis. What? I'm offended.
No, that's terrible. But I can listen to podcasts and in the car or that sort of thing. And it's just really hard to sit down and read. And then you're on your phone. You're like, I shouldn't be on my phone. I know. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I still blog actually on my, I don't know, my personal blog. Just like I'll write poetry or things like that nobody really reads it. And so I do still blog over there.
Then I'll go
check it out. No, it's good for me to have like a creative outlet, and I never regret it.
Yeah.
But I'll try to just do something somewhat creative, mostly just to serve me. It's mostly just for me and a few close friends.
I feel like Instagram has turned into like my mini blog, and that's pretty much what I keep it for, I guess.
Do you feel like Instagram is like where you find most of your clients? Do you feel like that's your main marketing platform?
It changes like often between Instagram and Facebook, but I prefer Instagram. That's as far as like people coming to our website to buy things. It literally changes all the time. Right now, Facebook is bringing in more people than Instagram is, so it's always really interesting to see that.
Targeted ads.
I know. So what is a current quote, verse, or a book that is encouraging you right now?
I just finished the book called Off the Clock by Laura Vanderkam, and it took about 3 weeks to read it, but she it's just about time management. So it's sort of like a self-help book, but she's a mom of 4, and she spent 2 years calculating or just recording exactly how she spent her time. And so she had all these really great suggestions. Like, it wasn't just practical suggestions either. It was like one chapter was called People Are a Good Use of Time. So just sort of taking down the idea that you don't have time and sort of naming where you're spending your time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just, like we talked about earlier, I love the idea of making memories. I'm really motivated by that. And so she does a lot of talking about how when we make memories, it expands our concept of time because we have more specific times that are filled with specific memories. I don't know. So it was a really timely read for me, just in the sense that I'm trying to find time management and make everything work in my life. But also, I'm 32. So I feel this sense too of like, my girls are getting, they're 5 and almost 4. And I want to make much of time. I don't want it to go to waste. I want to name it, and I want to have memories. So it was a really, really, really good read for me right now.
I love it. I'm going to have to read it.
You would love it.
myself.
I know. It was so good. I keep talking about it. My friends are like, you really like that book, didn't you? I'm like, and that person who's like, in the book I'm reading, this topic is addressed, but I can't help it when it's the first book in a long time that has really spoken to something that that has really touched my heart.
All right. And then I think this might be my longest interview yet, because you're most like me.
Yeah, well.
So we have lots to talk about. And it's our first time to ever talk in person, online, hearing each other's voices.
Yeah, I was worried I was
going
to start having a Southern accent because you don't really have one. But
'cause you were talking to me.
Yeah. I was like, it's going to be so embarrassing if I start like picking up a Southern accent, because I just I tend to pick up the way accents. People talk, and it's so embarrassing because like, why are you talking like that? Like, I don't know, because you talk like that and I just mimic it. I don't know how. So anyway.
I do that with my sister. She has a really Southern accent, but people tell me all the time, they're like, you don't sound like you're from Texas.
Thanks.
I'm like, I feel like I do, but I guess that's also a good thing.
Yeah.
So where can people find you on the crazy world of social media and the World Wide Web?
So the place that I hang out the most is Instagram. They can find me at Leslie and triple underscore.
I was like, how many underscores?
8 underscores. No. Sorry. Okay, so it's Leslie and then underscore K, K-A-Y. It's my personal Instagram, but I also do post a lot about travels and travel tips and travel inspiration on there. And on Facebook, my page is Exquisite Travel Designs. And my website is exquisitetraveldesigns.com. So that is really where I'm found.
So what made you combine your personal and travel?
Jenna Kutcher.
I love Jenna Kutcher.
I know, she's so good. No, what made me combine my personal and my business was my desire to be authentic. I think once I was only posting on my business account, I didn't feel like I could post about my life. And I felt like it wasn't gaining any sort of traction because there was nothing really that anybody wanted to see. There's plenty of travel accounts on Instagram. Lord knows there's plenty of travel accounts. So I didn't feel like I could do anything different and gain any kind of authentic audience. So I just decided to just merge them. I get most of my clients from word of mouth referrals and Facebook, honestly, anyway. But I feel like my brand, like who I am, can be more fully shown. And part of that is that I'm a twin mom, and part of that is that I lived overseas, and part of that is that I'm a travel agent. So I just felt like rather than blurring, I'd rather blur all of that into one whole person, that I'm all of this, rather than just a business name.
I like it. I mean, I've had the same struggle, but I feel like travel planning is a very easy thing to merge with personal life because it's a service. And so like people want to know where you've traveled and stuff. And so I had the same struggle, and obviously have my Salt and Light page, but it's definitely more product based. And so I feel like I can post a little bit more, but it's definitely bleeding over lately into like a lot more personal too. So I'm like, I don't know.
Do you have
the crazy world
page for your podcast as well, or where do you?
I'm pretty much using my personal right now, and a little bit of crossover into Salt and Light to advertise it on both platforms. But I'm pretty sure I'm just going to keep my personal, the Bree and Johnson, to advertise my photography and podcasting. But then it kind of merges over into Salt and Light too. So I don't know.
I think
it's so hard.
It is hard, and it's all you, so
yeah.
I think it makes sense that Salt and Light has its own page. Like as I was talking, it makes sense for travel. I think it also makes sense for you to have two separate, at least. My goodness, you have so many different things going on.
I know. Tell me
about
it.
Be fun.
I know. Leslie, thank you so much for joining me today. I loved our conversation, and I can't wait to listen back to it. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Brianne. It was so fun.